So she was so eager for training that she accepted everything we gave her and everything that she could learn, which made us give her more than we would the average girl.
What led to Marilyn Monroe's tragic downfall? One of Marilyn Monroe's spouses has finally revealed what we all expected. Marilyn Monroe, born Norma Jean Mortensen on June 1, 1926, is one of the most enduring symbols of Hollywood glamour, beauty, and tragedy. Monroe's legacy transcends the films she starred in, becoming a part of the very fabric of American culture. Her rise from humble beginnings in foster care to global superstardom is the stuff of legend. Yet, behind her radiant smile and seductive allure lay personal demons, including mental health struggles, addiction, and failed relationships that ultimately led to her tragic demise. In this video, we will be revealing what her husband said after so long. Stick around and find out. Early life. Norma Jean's struggle for stability. Marilyn Monroe was born Norma Jean Mortensen in Los Angeles, California. Her early life was defined by abandonment, instability, and trauma. Her mother, Gladys Pearl Baker, worked as a film cutter at RKO Studios, but struggled with severe mental illness, likely paranoid schizophrenia. Norma Jean never knew her father, and her mother's instability meant that Monroe spent much of her childhood in foster care and orphanages. At the age of 2 weeks, she was placed in a foster home, setting the tone for a childhood marked by a lack of a stable family environment. This instability caused Monroe to develop deep emotional wounds and a sense of being unloved and unwanted, feelings that would plague her throughout her life. Gladys's mental health issues worsened, and when Monroe was 7, her mother was institutionalized. Norma Jean was sent to live with a series of foster families. She later recounted incidents of sexual abuse during her time in foster care, which contributed to her lifelong struggles with trust and intimacy. One of the most significant relationships during her childhood was with Grace McKee, a close friend of Gladys. McKee introduced Monroe to the world of Hollywood, taking her to movies and encouraging her dreams of becoming a movie star. For a brief time, McKee provided some stability, but when she married, she could no longer care for Norma Jean, who returned to foster care. By the time Monroe was 16, she faced the possibility of returning to an orphanage. To avoid this fate, she married her 21-year-old neighbor, James Dougherty, a decision that was more out of necessity than love. Dougherty enlisted in the Merchant Marines during World War II, leaving Monroe alone. It was during this time that she began working in a munitions factory, where she was discovered by a photographer. This chance encounter led to a modeling career, and soon after, she signed her first contract with 20th Century Fox, changing her name to Marilyn Monroe. The transformation from Norma Jean to Marilyn Monroe had begun, though the insecurities of her childhood would never fully leave her. The birth of a star. Early success in Hollywood. Marilyn Monroe's modeling career took off rapidly, propelling her into the limelight as one of the most recognized pin-up models during World War II. Her striking features, coupled with her vivacious yet approachable personality, resonated deeply with servicemen. She symbolized the quintessential all-American beauty, capturing the imagination of a generation, grappling with the uncertainties of war. By 1946, Monroe's rise in popularity led to her signing a contract with 20th Century Fox, one of the most powerful film studios at the time. However, her transformation from a fresh-faced model into the glamorous movie star Marilyn Monroe was no accident. It was a calculated decision by the studio executives who saw in her the potential to create a new type of starlet, one who could embody post-war desires for escape, beauty, and luxury. As part of this transformation, Monroe was encouraged to change her name, shedding her birth name Norma Jean Mortensen, and to dye her naturally brown hair platinum blonde, a color that would become her trademark. Despite the carefully crafted persona, Monroe's early years in Hollywood were challenging. While she had the look that studios adored, she struggled to land significant roles. Her first film appearances were minor, often going uncredited. In Dangerous Years, 1947, and Scudda Hoo, Scudda Hey, 1948, Monroe had little more than a few lines, with her screen time amounting to mere minutes. These roles, though small, introduced her to the mechanics of the film industry and provided her with a critical foundation. But Monroe was far from content with being just another pretty face. Even at this early stage in her career, she was acutely aware of the importance of refining her acting abilities if she wanted to transcend the superficial roles offered to her. To that end, she immersed herself in acting classes, studying under influential teachers, including Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio. This commitment to her craft underscored Monroe's determination to become a serious actress, not just a bombshell. Monroe's first real breakthrough came in 1950 when she secured small but significant roles in two critically acclaimed films, The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve. In The Asphalt Jungle, Monroe portrayed Angela Finlay, the young mistress of a corrupt lawyer. Although her role was brief, she made a lasting impression on audiences and critics alike with her seductive yet vulnerable performance. Similarly, her turn in All About Eve as Miss Caswell, an aspiring but talentless actress, demonstrated her ability to shine even in minor roles. Both films showcased her beauty, but more importantly, they highlighted her charisma and screen presence. It was clear that Monroe possessed something special, an ineffable quality that made her stand out even in scenes where she was merely a supporting character. By 1953, Monroe's career was poised to skyrocket. Her role in Niagara marked a turning point, as she took on the role of Rose Loomis, a sultry femme fatale plotting to murder her husband. The film was a commercial success and allowed Monroe to display her dramatic acting chops, moving beyond the simple, girl-next-door roles that had previously defined her. In the same year, she starred in the musical Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, alongside the seasoned actress Jane Russell. Monroe's portrayal of the charming yet gold-digging showgirl Lorelei Lee further cemented her place as Hollywood's leading blonde bombshell. Her rendition of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, performed in a now iconic pink satin gown, became one of the defining moments of her career. The scene, with Monroe surrounded by opulent diamonds and glimmering in the spotlight, established her as the embodiment of 1950s femininity and glamour, an image that would be immortalized in popular culture. Riding the wave of success from Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Monroe continued to dominate the box office with films like How to Marry a Millionaire, 1953, and The 7-Year Itch, 1955. In How to Marry a Millionaire, Monroe played one of three women plotting to marry rich men, showcasing her comedic timing and further reinforcing her bombshell image. However, it was her role in The 7-Year Itch that produced one of the most iconic images in film history. The famous scene where Monroe, standing over a subway grate, holds down her billowing white dress as air rushes from below became a cultural phenomenon. This moment, which captured Monroe's playful and sensual allure, is still instantly recognizable today, a symbol of both her personal brand and the era's fascination with glamour and sexuality. Despite her growing popularity and status as one of Hollywood's most bankable stars, Monroe struggled with the limitations imposed on her by the industry. Time and again, she was typecast as the dumb blonde or the innocent, wide-eyed beauty. While these roles brought her fame, they also left her feeling creatively unfulfilled. Monroe yearned to be taken seriously as an actress, desiring more complex, layered characters that would allow her to explore a wider range of emotions and experiences. Her frustrations with the industry led her to take bold steps to redefine her career and challenged the typecasting that had come to dominate her filmography. In an effort to take control of her career, Monroe founded her own production company, Marilyn Monroe Productions, in 1954. This move was virtually unheard of for a female star at the time, and demonstrated Monroe's desire to have more agency over the types of roles she played. Through her production company, Monroe sought to escape the constraints of Hollywood's studio system and to explore more dramatic and challenging roles. It was through this venture that Monroe began to earn the respect she had long sought, both as an actress and as a businesswoman. While Monroe's life and career were often marred by personal struggles and the pressures of fame, her impact on Hollywood and popular culture remains undeniable. She was more than just a blonde bombshell. She was a trailblazer, a woman who pushed against the limitations imposed on her and strived to be more than what society expected of her. Today, Monroe's legacy endures, not just as a symbol of glamour, but as an icon of resilience and ambition. Behind the glamour, struggles with mental health and addiction. While Marilyn Monroe's career was reaching new heights, her personal life was unraveling under the weight of emotional turmoil. Beneath the glamorous facade she presented to the world, Monroe wrestled with deep-seated insecurities, overwhelming anxiety, and a profound fear of abandonment. These emotional struggles were likely rooted in her difficult childhood, which was marked by instability, foster homes, and a lack of consistent parental love. Monroe had a lifelong yearning for validation, love, and acceptance, but the very fame that brought her adoration from millions only seemed to magnify her internal sense of loneliness and inadequacy. Monroe's emotional fragility was evident in her personal relationships, many of which were tumultuous and filled with heartache. She sought love and security but often found herself in relationships that only exacerbated her insecurities. Monroe's 3 high-profile marriages, to James Dougherty, Joe DiMaggio, and Arthur Miller, all ended in divorce, leaving her feeling more isolated. Each of these relationships had its own complexities, with Monroe's need for emotional support clashing with the intense pressures of her career and the public's fascination with her personal life. Her marriage to baseball legend Joe DiMaggio, in particular, highlighted the tension between her public persona and private needs. DiMaggio reportedly wanted Monroe to be a traditional wife, away from the spotlight, while Monroe was determined to continue pursuing her career. Their relationship, while passionate, was fraught with misunderstandings and eventually ended in divorce after just 9 months. Adding to Monroe's emotional challenges was her increasing dependence on prescription drugs. Suffering from chronic insomnia, anxiety, and bouts of depression, Monroe was prescribed a cocktail of medications, including sleeping pills, barbiturates, and amphetamines. These drugs, intended to help her cope with the pressures of fame and her emotional struggles, only worsened her mental health over time. Instead of alleviating her pain, the medications created a vicious cycle of dependency, contributing to her erratic behavior. Monroe's reliance on drugs became so severe that it began to affect her professional life. She developed a reputation for being unreliable on set, frequently arriving late or forgetting her lines, and her absenteeism often caused significant delays in film productions. Directors and co-stars, while sometimes frustrated, often spoke of Monroe's vulnerability and kindness, with many acknowledging that her struggles stemmed from deep-seated insecurity rather than any ill will. Despite these challenges, Monroe was determined to be taken seriously as an actress. In 1955, in a bid to break free from the superficial roles she had been typecast into, Monroe made a bold and unexpected decision. She left Hollywood for New York City and enrolled at the prestigious Actors Studio under the tutelage of Lee Strasberg, a renowned figure in method acting. This marked a significant turning point in Monroe's career and demonstrated her desire to grow as an artist. Studying alongside serious actors, Monroe sought to prove that she was more than just a glamorous starlet. Strasberg saw potential in Monroe, and she became deeply connected to both him and his family. Her time at the actor's studio was transformative, allowing her to delve into the craft of acting, with a seriousness that many had previously doubted she possessed. Monroe's time at the actor's studio reflected her longing for creative fulfillment, and a desire to break free from the blonde bombshell image that had defined much of her career. She sought out more complex, nuanced roles that would challenge her and showcase her range as an actress. However, even as she worked to reinvent herself professionally, Monroe's personal demons continued to haunt her. Her battle with mental health and addiction did not abate, and her emotional instability remained a constant presence in her life. Despite her best efforts to break away from the image that Hollywood had constructed for her, Monroe was often pulled back into the roles that had made her famous. While she did achieve some success in landing more serious parts, such as her acclaimed performance in Bus Stop, 1956, Monroe's struggle for creative control over her career remained an uphill battle. At times, she was able to demonstrate her talent and depth, earning praise from critics and peers alike. However, the public's perception of her as a sex symbol was difficult to shake, and the pressure to maintain that image took a toll on her well-being. Monroe's life, marked by the tension between her public persona and private struggles, was a complex and often heartbreaking journey. She was a woman who sought love, acceptance, and creative fulfillment, but whose fame often stood in the way of achieving true happiness. Her time at the actor's studio and her continued efforts to challenge the industry's expectations demonstrated her resilience and determination. Yet, as much as Monroe sought to redefine herself, she could not fully escape the emotional fragility that had followed her throughout her life. Monroe's personal struggles and her professional aspirations were deeply intertwined, and despite her incredible success, her quest for inner peace and fulfillment would remain elusive. Marriages and heartache. Joe DiMaggio and Arthur Miller. Monroe's personal life was as tumultuous as her professional one. Her relationships were intense, passionate, and often doomed to fail. In 1954, Monroe married Joe DiMaggio, one of the greatest baseball players in history. Their marriage was highly publicized, with the media portraying it as the ultimate American romance between two beloved icons. However, the reality of their relationship was far from perfect. DiMaggio was a traditional man who wanted Monroe to give up her career and settle down as a housewife. He was uncomfortable with her status as a sex symbol and grew jealous of the attention she received from other men. The infamous scene from The 7-Year Itch, where Monroe's dress blows up over a subway grate, reportedly infuriated DiMaggio, leading to a physical altercation between the couple. Monroe filed for divorce just 9 months after their wedding, citing mental cruelty as the cause. Despite their short-lived marriage, DiMaggio remained deeply in love with Monroe and supported her throughout her life. After her death, he famously sent roses to her grave every week for 20 years. Monroe's second marriage, to playwright Arthur Miller, was an attempt to distance herself from her Hollywood image and pursue a more intellectual and meaningful life. The couple met in 1955, and Monroe was deeply attracted to Miller's intelligence and creativity. In 1956, they were married, and Monroe converted to Judaism as a symbol of her commitment to Miller. For a time, their marriage was happy, and Monroe felt supported in her quest to become a serious actress. However, their relationship was strained by Monroe's emotional instability and her increasing dependence on drugs. Monroe suffered multiple miscarriages during their marriage, which deepened her feelings of inadequacy and depression. Miller, in turn, struggled to cope with Monroe's erratic behavior and the emotional toll of her miscarriages. They divorced in 1961, but Monroe continued to speak fondly of Miller and regarded him as one of the few people who truly understood her. Controversies and the Kennedy connection. One of the most enduring and controversial aspects of Marilyn Monroe's life is her rumored relationship with President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert F. Kennedy. Monroe's association with the Kennedy family has become a significant part of her legend, fueled by speculation, rumor, and conspiracy theories. Monroe's infamous performance at President Kennedy's birthday celebration in May 1962, where she sang "Happy Birthday, Mr. President," in a breathy, seductive voice, was widely interpreted as evidence of an intimate relationship between Monroe and the president. Monroe's shimmering, skin-tight dress and sultry performance made headlines and fueled rumors that the two were romantically involved. Although there is no definitive proof of an affair between Monroe and JFK, many biographers and historians believe that Monroe had at least a brief romantic relationship with both John and Robert Kennedy. Monroe's connection to the Kennedys has been the subject of much speculation, with some suggesting that her involvement with such powerful figures contributed to the mysterious circumstances surrounding her death. Conspiracy theories suggest that Monroe was privy to sensitive political information through her relationships with the Kennedys, and that she may have been silenced to protect the reputation of the president. Others argue that Monroe's death was a result of her emotional instability and struggles with addiction, rather than any nefarious plot. Despite the numerous theories, no conclusive evidence has emerged to prove any involvement by the Kennedys in Monroe's death. The decline, mental health battles, and professional struggles. By the early 1960s, Monroe's career had begun to falter. Her increasing reliance on drugs and her erratic behavior on set made her difficult to work with, and many in Hollywood began to view her as unreliable. In 1962, Monroe began filming Something's Got to Give, a romantic comedy that was supposed to mark her big comeback. However, production was plagued by delays caused by Monroe's frequent absences and health issues. She was eventually fired from the film, though she was later rehired. The movie was never completed, and it became a symbol of Monroe's professional decline. Monroe's health had deteriorated significantly by this time. She suffered from severe insomnia, anxiety, and depression, and her dependence on prescription drugs was at an all-time high. In addition to sleeping pills and barbiturates, Monroe was also taking amphetamines and other substances to manage her emotional and physical health. The combination of these drugs only worsened her mental state. In June 1962, Monroe was briefly hospitalized at the Payne Whitney Psychiatric Clinic in New York after suffering a mental breakdown. She later described the experience as dehumanizing and isolating, comparing it to being locked in a cage. Although she was released from the clinic, Monroe's mental health continued to decline in the months leading up to her death. The tragic death of Marilyn. Before notifying the police, Monroe's death shocked the world, and immediately after the news broke, speculation began to swirl about the circumstances surrounding her demise. While the coroner's office ruled her death a suicide, some have questioned whether it was an accidental overdose or something more sinister. The fact that Monroe was allegedly involved with both John and Robert Kennedy only added fuel to the conspiracy theories, with some suggesting that she was murdered to prevent her from exposing damaging information about the Kennedys. One of the most popular theories is that Monroe's death was a result of foul play orchestrated by the Kennedy family or other powerful figures. Others argue that Monroe's death was a tragic accident caused by her addiction to prescription drugs and the emotional toll of her struggles with fame and mental health. Despite the numerous theories, no concrete evidence has ever emerged to support the idea that Monroe's death was anything other than a tragic overdose. In the decades since her death, Marilyn Monroe's legacy has only grown. She remains one of the most recognizable and beloved figures in Hollywood history, with her image adorning everything from posters to fashion lines. Monroe's films, particularly those from the height of her career in the 1950s, continue to be celebrated for their wit, charm, and timeless appeal. Beyond her contributions to film, Monroe's life story has come to symbolize the darker side of fame. Her struggles with mental health, addiction, and the pressures of stardom serve as a reminder of the personal toll that comes with being a public figure. Monroe's vulnerability and humanity have made her a sympathetic figure, and her story continues to resonate with audiences around the world. Monroe's influence on pop culture is undeniable. Her platinum blonde hair, red lipstick, and seductive smile have been imitated and referenced countless times in fashion, music, and art. She has inspired generations of performers, from Madonna to Lady Gaga, and her image remains a symbol of beauty and glamour. In the decades following her passing, Monroe's life has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films. Each retelling of her story offers new insights into the complexities of her character, but the enigma of Marilyn Monroe remains. She was a woman of contrasts, confident yet deeply insecure, glamorous yet painfully vulnerable, adored yet profoundly lonely. Marilyn Monroe's life was filled with both extraordinary triumphs and heartbreaking struggles. From her difficult childhood to her rise as Hollywood's brightest star, Monroe captivated the world with her beauty, charm, and talent. Yet behind the glamorous facade was a woman who longed for love, acceptance, and inner peace. Her tragic death at the age of 36 marked the end of a life that was as complicated as it was extraordinary. But in many ways, Monroe's death only cemented her status as a legend. Her legacy as an icon of beauty, talent, and vulnerability continues to captivate new generations of fans. Monroe's story is one of resilience, tragedy, and enduring influence. She remains a symbol of Hollywood's golden age and a reminder of both the allure and the dangers of fame. More than 60 years after her death, Marilyn Monroe's star continues to shine brightly, ensuring that she will forever be remembered as one of the most iconic figures in history.